Okay. We're on Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Gimel, which is on page Perek Yud Gimel. Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Gimel is on page 610. Okay. Now, before I start, I just want to do an advertisement for Torah Anytime people. I have over here the How to Run a Shabbos Table, which is a parent's guide to creating a most enjoyable Shabbos table. And this is not for kiruv. This is for running a Shabbos table with ideas such as keeping teens interested, managing with small children, how to bring Torah to the table, making proper preparations, zmiros, the mother's role, logistics, realistic expectations, and so on and so forth. Now this is about 27 pages. There's a review list at the end. And I have a file that is now on I have the file. If anybody is interested in purchasing this, I can send you the file for this book. It's about 26 pages. I'll send you the file. You can send $14 to Dovid, to my email, Dovid B. Kaplan, B as in baseball, Kaplan, Dovid B. Kaplan, and then pay $14 on PayPal, and I'll be glad to send you the file. This is one of the most important things I've ever written. People have, because Shabbos table is often very frustrating, because dealing with little kids and dealing with husbands and dealing with the logistics and trying to get something a little more substantial, a little more ruchni out of Shabbos. If anybody's interested, please, you can send me an email. I'll be glad to send you the file. Okay, so we're on Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Gimel. V'roa koines hanega ba'ora basar. That's where we got to yesterday. V'seyar hanega b'nega hafach lovan u'maria hanega amok min or basar nega tzarasu. V'roa kohen v'timeoso. The kohen renders him tamei. Now, then in Pasuk Dalet it says like this. The Torah is going to tell us that the guy. What if the kohen's not sure? So if the guy's tamei, if the guy's obviously he's tamei, the kohen says you are tamei. Right? And the guy's boom, he's outside the camp, but we're going to talk about that. Miguel asked last week why we put him outside in isolation. We'll talk about that in a second. But then in Pasuk Dalet it says V'im baheres levana hi be'or b'saro, some type of white discoloration. Ve'amok ein mareh mina or, it's not deeper. Again, these are all very complex halachas. U'sa'ar lo hafach levan, and the hair has not turned white. V'hiskir hakohen es hanega shivas yamin. The kohen closes him off for 7 days. Now, over here, and then he checks him a week later to see. And then the Torah is going to say, well, if it's spread or if it stayed the same, sometimes he may close him off for another 7 days. He may be tohor after the first 7 days. He may become more tummy after that. But there's a 7-day period that he's closed off. Now, the question is, why are you closing him off for 7 days? Why don't you close him off for 1 day? Close him off for 1 day and see how it looks the next day. Why does it need 7 days? Why does it need 7 days? So obviously, the first idea over here is that if a person is already in a situation where, I'm not quite sure if this is tsaras or not, one thing is clear. You better start doing tshuva. The whole goal here is to get a person to do tshuva. How does it ever go away? Let's back up for a second. A person who has tsaras, how does the tsaras ever go away? It has nothing to do with skin creams. It has nothing to do, you can't even use, what do you call it? What's it called? Natural cures. What's it called? Alternative, what's the word? Homeopathic. Even that's not going to help you. How do you like that? Homeopathic has finally met its match, right? Even though it can make you live longer and grow bigger and stronger, even if you're 79 years old, but homeopathics have met their match, right? Because tsaras doesn't go. So what makes it go away? What makes it go away is a person does some soul searching and he does tshuva. Because the tsaras only is a result of misbehavior. It's a result of a person who's doing at least mental averas, if not physical averas. Right? He's haughty, he's speaking lashon hara, all these things that could cause it. So the whole goal is to do tshuva. So we close them off for 7 days. Why? Why 7 days? Close them off for a day. So the basic idea seems to be, well, we need some serious tshuva over here. And if I had a guy who told me once, a guy here in the yeshiva, he told me that he had to be tested for AIDS. The guy was on a college campus, and he apparently the water wasn't good, so he had to be tested for AIDS. Yeah. So he told me that when he went there, when he was waiting for his results for the test, he said that was a real bad Well, he told me 15 minutes. I guess they took a blood test and there was a 15-minute result or something. I don't know how they could do it, but that's what he told me. He says it was a real bad 15 minutes waiting for the results, right? And sometimes waiting for the results is worse than getting results. That's situation of doubt. A guy say, you're not going to sit outside the camp. Hey, buddy, you might be Tameh. Whoa, right? You might be, think about that for a week. You might be Tameh, right? So the whole goal is that a person should do tshuva. That's the whole goal. We close them off so that, because let's do some soul searching. Now, what's interesting here is that who is it who says it? We'll see in the next pasuk. Sorry, we'll see in the next pasuk. This applies very much. Why don't we check every day? This applies to us practically. Often, when it comes to our own personal growth, you can't check day to day how much have I grown. You have to check it longer. The increments of time have to be wider. I mean, you can check where was I holding 6 months ago compared to where I'm holding now. Then you see a vast difference. Where was I holding 3 months ago compared to where I'm holding now? Sometimes it happens when you're learning Gemara. You look at your first Gemara, the things that you were writing into your Gemara. Take a look at it 2 years later. You go, really? I didn't know that? Right? You can't even imagine you didn't know it. And what often happens with Baalei Tshuvas, often there's a certain frustration because in the early stages you see the growth very much. You see the growth in much shorter increments. Yesterday I didn't know the Aleph base. Today I know 10 letters. That's a tremendous growth. And the next day I know the whole Aleph base. Okay, now you grew 50% more. So you see the growth. But when you take a look at somebody like Rav Shach, or you look at Rav Elyashiv or Rav Moshe Feinstein, I mean, did he grow? How much did he grow? What was left to grow over there, right? Yet Rav Moshe Feinstein at 90 wasn't the same Rav Moshe Feinstein at 85. He was a different Rav Moshe Feinstein. And if a person doesn't see that you're different 5 years later or 2 years later, a year later, if you don't see that there's a difference, and that you don't realize that you've grown, that's something that then you haven't. Then a person is stagnated. So the Torah is delivering, you can't check the growth every 5 minutes because then you're going to get depressed. And for Baalei Tshuvas, what happens is you get to a point where you don't see it as obviously. In the beginning stages, you see it much more clearly, and all of a sudden you're wondering, am I really growing? Right? And it could be frustrating. Am I really growing? The answer is yes, you are, because every word of Gemara you learn, every word of Torah, every mitzvah, every time you put on tefillin, every time you daven, that's growth. That's growth, but it's cumulative. You can't look back. You can't look back every 5 minutes. That's idea number one. Now look at Pasuk Vav. On the in Pasuk Vav it says that the Kohen's going to check him again after the second time he's been closed off because nothing happened after the first time. So he's still in doubt. Double overtime, right? Double overtime. Right? He's still in doubt over here. Right? So we go to the third overtime period. And then it says, "V'ra Kohen oso b'yom hashvi." The Kohen sees him on the seventh day. Pasuk Vav, about 7 lines from the bottom. Shenis v'nei keha hanega v'lo pasa hanega ba'or. The nega has not spread. Now look at the wording over here. V'tiharo haKohen. The Kohen pronounces him tohor. If the Kohen has to say he's tohor, what's the implication? Now the Kohen says you're tohor. Implication is what? You wasn't. There was a suspicion, at least, that you weren't tahor till now. There's an implication you were tamei. If I got to tell you you're tahor, then at some level you were tamei, even if you weren't officially tzaraz tamei, but at some level you were tamei. So who is it who says it? The commentators point out that sometimes can we open some windows, get some air in here, and say, it's only 33 degrees out, which is low 90s or high 80s. And again, I don't know. I looked on the weather. It says 28 degrees, real feel 33. What does that mean? What does that mean? Tell me how hot I'm going to be. What's the good does do me? I'm 28, but it feels like 33. So what's that? And I don't even understand how that could be. Either it's 28 or it's 33. Make up your mind over it. What's a nafkamina?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I think that humidity and rain and wind affects the feeling of the temperature. So it should be 33 degrees.
Oh, I see. So, but then it should be 33. And if you stick a thermometer into the air, what's it going to register? It's going to register 28. Right, except that you're going to end up with sunburn. Right, shkoyach, you know? So what did I gain over here? The weather guy on TV every night, you know, they tell you the weather. He said the forecast. He said, well, precipitation, and he's like, I say, hey, listen, bro, you know, just tell me, is it going to be hot or cold? You know, is it going to be rain? Can we have a picnic tomorrow or not? What I care about? Well, we got a what do you call it, coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. How do I care about the Gulf of Mexico? I care about Gulf, and I don't care about Mexico. What are you talking about? Care me about the Gulf? We got a front coming out of the Gulf. I don't care where it's coming from. If there's a snow blizzard, you know, what do I care? My cars, I still got to dig the snow. My car out under the snow. I don't care where the blizzard's coming from. I don't care where it's coming from Australia. What nafkamina does it make to me? He's giving me a whole explanation with arrows on the thing over there. The guy, okay, I got that off my chest. So the idea over here is that even if you're suspect of something, it's not good. There's a famous story about a Rosh Yeshiva. He calls in one of the boys from the yeshiva. He calls him, he says, Chaim, I'm sorry we have to expel you from the yeshiva. He goes, Rabbi, why? He says, we have, somebody said they saw you downtown, you were holding hands with a girl. He says, yeah, but Rabbi, it's not true. He looks at it, it should be true also? And why were they even saying that about you? Why were they even saying it about you? The fact that they're saying it about you means you weren't doing the right thing. So I said, I saw you gambling last night. I wasn't gambling. I was in the casino watching my friends, but I wasn't gambling. Good. You're no good either. What were you doing there? What were you doing in any situation where it lends to suspicion? There's a statement in the Gemara, if somebody is suspected of something, he probably did it. And if he didn't do all of it, he probably did some of it. And if he didn't do some of it, he probably saw other people doing it. He probably wanted to do it. And if he didn't want to do it, he saw other people doing it and he was happy to see them doing it. But if where there's smoke, there's smoke. Right? Where there's smoke's no good for you either. Right? Smoke inhalation is no good either. You don't have to have fire. Where there's smoke. Right? That's good enough. You don't need the fire. So if a person is suspected of something, why are you even in that situation where you're being suspected? That's what the Torah is teaching you over here. You're tahor. Now you're tahor, buddy. But you're shlishi, we're not going to give you. It's not like you're a tzaddik yesod olam over here. You know, you shouldn't have been in this situation. I told you there's a pasuk that we learn from later on in the Torah by the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven, where the Torah says, "V'hi yisem nikiyim me'Hashem u'miYisrael." There's a concept of v'hi yisem nikiyim. If somebody sees you doing something, which is perfectly permissible, but the person seeing you do it doesn't realize that what you're doing is permissible, you should explain it to them. And try to avoid being in a situation where what you're doing looks questionable. So, for example, let's say you're eating you have an Impossible burger with a layer of cheese on it. Looks like a cheeseburger, and somebody looks at you and goes, "Whoa!" Now it's perfectly permissible to eat an Impossible burger with cheese on it. It's perfectly permissible according to law. But if somebody looks at you, you should say to, by the way, you should let them know this is a part of a burger.
After or before?
As soon as possible. Before would be even better. Good question. Before would be, if I tell the guy, what I'm eating now, you don't have to worry. You know, I once did a program in America, just to show you how far this extends. I did a program on Shavuos in America, one of these weekends for one of these organizations. And for me, it was 1 day of Yontif. They have 2 days Yontif in Chutz La'aretz. I have 1 day Yontif. Now, even when I'm in Chutz La'aretz, even though on the second day of Yontif, I'm not allowed to do malacha. I'm not allowed to turn lights on and off. I'm not allowed to do anything. If I'm in a Jewish community or what's called a Jewish yishuv, which is this, there are different opinions. When is it a Jewish yishuv? Many people say as soon as your plane lands in the airport in New York, that's called a Jewish yishuv because half the workers in the airport are Jewish. So it doesn't. So if you're in a Jewish area,
really?
You're bound by the halachas.
That's true.
Why would I lie?
No, I
don't. Why is which part true?
Why is that true? That's
what is which part? What, that half the workers? Because half the population of New York is Jewish. As simple as that.
See the Jewish workers, they're like in the room.
They're like, yeah, right. They're the guys telling everybody else what to do. Yeah, well, I want to tell you something. I came from Los Angeles. I was leaving on a Motzei Shabbos once. So I leave Los Angeles. I get to the airport. And as I get to the airport, they made me go through an extra security check. Usually when you have a Middle Eastern passport, they make you go through so I finished the first check, where you put your hands up like this. Then there's a cop standing there, and he calls me over, And he pats me down. He goes, "It's okay to travel already? You made Havdalah?" He was a Jewish guy. He was a Jewish guy. I didn't know. He was a Jew. See, that was in Los Angeles. Okay, I don't know about the airport. I don't know halachically. But the point is, when I'm in Chutz La'aretz, I'm not allowed to do malacha. On second day Yom Tov, you have all the restrictions. You cannot turn lights on and off. You cannot do. Whereas in Israel, where you guys have to keep a second day Yom Tov, like you did on Pesach, if I was around, you could ask me to turn lights on and off for you.
Yeah, I had a Shabbos goy.
You could have a Jewish goy. A Shabbos Jewish goy, yeah, a Yontif goy for you, a Jewish Yontif goy, a Shabbos goy, yeah, because that's in Israel. In America, it works the opposite. You have all. However, I don't have the positive obligations, so I daven a regular weekday davening. You put on tefillin in private. I don't have to make kiddush. I don't have any of the obligations. I'm not even allowed to make kiddush. Could it be a bracha levatola? It'd be a wasted bracha. I have none of the positives, but you can't. You have all the restrictions. So I'm at this program in what do you call it? In upstate New York, and the second day Yontif. So everybody finished davening, and they had the fleishik meal. They had their suda, the regular Yontif suda. I didn't want the suda. I didn't want to eat fleishiks. So I had milk, I had parv, whatever it was. I didn't eat any meat. Then I went back into the kitchen area, and the young lady, not Jewish, and I said to her, I want to have a cup of coffee, can I get some milk? Now she knows all the laws because she's been working with this caterer for years. So she goes, I said, can I get some milk for my coffee? She goes, yeah, you could have milk for your coffee. And she goes and brings me the milk, and I didn't think anything. Then she looks at me, she goes, can I ask you a question? Is because you're a rabbi from Israel, you could have milk after the meat? No, young lady, no. Let's. There's something here you don't understand. We better get this clear. Yeah, you understand. So you have to try to keep it clean. Now that's only that was a non-Jew, but this is even with Jews. Like you say, if you're doing something which somebody could suspect it's inappropriate. I was once in Manchester, and Friday night we're coming out, and we'd finished davening, and as we're walking out of shul, there's a guy in the shul talking on the phone. He didn't even register by me, as I remember, because it's only afterwards that I even realized he had been talking on the phone. He's talking on the phone as I walk past, and he knows that I'm a new face, because I was visiting there in Manchester, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm the head of Hatzalah for Manchester, that's why I was on the phone, just though we had Hatzalah call. So everybody else in the shul already knows that. So he doesn't have to explain himself. Everybody knows he's the head of Hatzalah. But I didn't, and he saw a new face. So he went and told me it's a Hatzalah call. Right? That's what it means, v'yisem nekiyim. Don't be in a situation where you're suspected. That's what the Torah is teaching you here. Don't be in a situation where you're suspected. Okay, let's go on. Because we got it now. Let's skip all the way. The Torah goes into all the details, the various details of the lead and what the color they are and so on and so forth. Skip all the way to Pasuk Mem Vav, 46. Page 616. This is my Borei Nefashos reminder, because I had a chocolate bar before I had the coffee, and I don't want to forget to make an after bracha. So that's the easiest, most convenient place. I figure my handle, I'll see it at some point or other, right? And anyway, I had a lot of practice in high school, right now in my palm. So, so I'm good at it. You notice how neat it looks? That doesn't happen by itself, Blake. That's from a career of practice. So if you take a look, okay, 616. Pick it up on Pasuk Memhei, 6 lines to the bottom. V'hatzarua asher bo nega hanega, the person with the tsaras who has the plague, bigodov yufrumim, his clothing should be, he should rend his garments. V'rosho yeh parua. Now how does he translate the word parua? Unshorn. He does not cut his hair. V'al safam yata, he does not shave his beard. His mustache, v'tamei tamei yikra, and he calls out, tamei tamei. Now the plain idea here is that anybody comes near him, you're not allowed within 4 amos of this guy. So is anybody coming close, and he's outside the camp by himself, he's been isolated. And by the way, he didn't just sneak out there. They let him out there in full view. This is very embarrassing. This guy's been taken out there, hey, he's a leper. This guy's got saras, and you see a Kohen leading a guy out of the camp, and the guy's got some white on his arms and on his head or wherever it is, and the Kohen's leading him out, so everybody's like, I better not say anything because that's why he's out there. Or you can't even talk about it. How's that for an nisayon, right? He's out there, but everybody knows. It's very embarrassing. So, the Tameh Yikra. Now, take a look at Rashi. Where is Pasuk Mem Hey? Where is it over here?
What if a person doesn't know what's going on and he asks someone?
Left column, 4 lines down.
Left column 6 lines down. I'll get to you 1 second, Yisrael. The Tameh Yikra Mashmiya Shehu Tameh V'Yifreshu Mimenu. He lets everybody know that he's Tameh, and they should all separate from him. But Chazal say also that he yells it out so people know to daven for him. Daven that he should inspire. What's your question?
So let's say like a guy's visiting the city or whatever, right, the place, and he doesn't know what's going on. She's a Kohen just pulling this guy, and he asks someone like, oh, like, what's going on? And then
Back off. Got a Tameh over here. Oh yeah, they let him know. They let everybody know the guy's Tameh. Yeah, probably could be it's not even Lashon Hara because the whole thing is everybody should learn. Now, Kol Yemei Asher Hanega Bo Yitma Tamehu. All the days that he has this plague, he is Tameh. Badad Yeshev Michutz Lamachne Moshavo. He sits outside of the tent. He sits outside of the camp because he is all by himself. Now, Miguel had asked, why is it that he's isolated? The answer is he drove a wedge between people who were united. He created disunity, right? He isolated people with his lashon hara, and therefore mida keneged mida, he's put outside of the camp. Number one. You created people. In other words, people were friends until you spoke Lashon Hara. You told one guy what the other guy said about him. Reuven and Shimon were friends. You managed to get them upset with each other with your Lashon Hara. Now they're no longer joined together. So the same way that they were separated, you're separated from people as well. Go sit outside the camp by yourself and think about it. Number one. That's idea number one. What's bothering you about that?
So we're speaking specifically about Lashon Hara here?
It's because for the most part, that's why it goes...
Any sin that goes tied to strife between Jews.
It really applied, but it's usually Lashon Hara that causes the strife. Number one. Number two, the commentaries say that for other sins that cause tzaras, it could go to the house and it could go to the clothing. For Lashon Hara, it goes straight to the body, which is worst. For Lashon Hara, it goes straight to the body. Now, if you take a look, just 1 second, Jonathan, I'll get to you 1 second. There's another idea here, which is very, very true. There are certain people who are always, they can't stand other people. People just can't stand other people. Everybody they see, this guy, I tell you, his flaws and his flaws and his flaws. You always got it in for everybody. Right? There's always one or two of those in the community, for sure. Every community has the same people. They just have different names. There's the same people. You're going to get the same types of people in every community. There's the one guy who always puts away the Sidurim in Shul. I told you, there's the one guy, the older guy with the bald old guy sits in the back, and he's the one who tells jokes to the teenagers or after Mincha and Shabbos, and he smokes a cigar. His name is usually either Irv or Norm or Max, right? And he's in the back, and he's always talking about how much money he made, and even he probably has got less money than most. And you got the guy who loves the rabbi, you got the guy who hates the rabbi, you got all these people in the community. Every community has these people. There's the shul tzaddik, right? And there's the shul nudnik, and there's the one guy who's always complaining about something. I think the shelves here are terrible. He's always had the most trivial things, and he makes them like a federal case out of it. I don't know. Every community has. I've seen it over and over and over. The same people in every community. I even joke sometimes looking when I go traveling. I look at that's what's his name from my community. Okay, that's what's his name from my community. I got them pegged in every community. It's unbelievable. There's one guy who does everything for everybody. There's one guy who's always talking about how this shul takes too much money. A bunch of ganuvim, right? There's always one guy's complaining about what does the rabbi do all day anyway? What do you do all day, buddy? This guy, and he's saying it while he's sitting in front of a TV with a can of peanuts. What does the rabbi do all day? Yeah, what do you do all day? Right? And it's always the same. I'm telling you, it's the same people. So this is a guy who's always got it for people. They can't say he got this. People can't say he's always got a big. He's got a negative. You know what? We're going to make you, and that's why he talks Lashon Hara, by the way. Talks Lashon Hara because he's got it in for people. Oh, you don't like people? Okay, you know what? We'll isolate you. We'll put you outside. Sit there by yourself. Why is there something called solitary confinement? Why is there something called solitary confinement? It's the worst. And you could have a TV, and you could have a bed, and you could have everything in there. But people, by definition, are social. People need other people. It's like there are couples that stay together, couples that have been married, bickering and fighting for 50 years. Right? They're bickering and fighting for 50 years. But the alternative is worse. Right? The alternative is worse. That's how they get along. They get along by bickering and fighting and picking and this, there. Even my wife, we're married a while. My wife, the other day at Shabbos, I said something, and I was talking to somebody at the table, and I said, 2 weeks ago, and my wife goes, it was about 3 weeks ago, and I said, you know what? That's a sign we've been married a long time, right? When the wife starts correcting the husband on every little detail. So we were laughing because she's not like that at all. We're laughing about, now you're nailing me on details. No, that's a sign that it's been a while. Sometimes you talk to these couples and go, I was with my friend Reuven. Well, it was actually Shimon. The wife is there to correct everything he says. Yesterday at about 8 o'clock. No, it was actually 8:30. So it was starting to happen. I said, here we go. So people need other people. You got it in for people. You don't like people. You have a problem with people. Go sit outside for a while. Go sit outside alone for a while. You'll see what it's like. You see what it's like. That's the idea. Yeah, go ahead.
And why two questions.
Yeah.
One, why we don't do that anymore?
We don't do it anymore because we don't have the korbanos. The guy after Tzuras, he has to bring a korbanos. You don't have a Beis Hamikdash. You don't have the kohanim to what do you call it? The whole process is no longer. But the Chafetz Chaim says that poverty. Chafetz Chaim writes that when a person is suffering financial setbacks, that's often the tzuras that we have. Chafetz Chaim said this. That's tzuras nowadays. Then a person who's suffering financial setbacks should check to see what's happening with the mouth. The Chafetz Chaim wrote a whole book on Lashon Hara. And he really introduced the severity. Look, it's hard. People talk. People talk. The easiest way to avoid the issue is don't mention people's names. You could tell the same story, but don't mention people's names. I could come home from Yeshiva and say, I saw a guy there. I don't have to say, there was a guy in Yeshiva Reuven, I saw the guy, he bent over and he split his pants. I don't have to say the guy's name. What does that add? I don't have to come home from shul and say, by the way, I saw Reuven and Shimon had a big fight in shul today. I can tell my wife, hey, I saw two guys in shul had a fight today. I don't say, what do you have to say the name for? What does the name add to the story, number one? Number two, if you work on curiosity about people, don't be, what's the difference? Don't be so curious. It's not, the Lashon Hara doesn't start over here. Lashon Hara does not start. Lashon Hara starts over here. It starts with the heart. Do you have a generally begrudging attitude towards people, or are you positive about people? Do you want what's good for people, or you're jealous of people? It starts here. Then the mouth just finishes it off. I told you, when I was going out, and I recommend this to most guys, one of the first quality you should look for in a girl when you're dating, if you want to get married, the first quality is?
She's like greedy.
What?
Greedy? No, I forgot what it was.
I can't believe you guys forgot. The first quality is money. Well, how could you have forgotten that? Or that was a given. That was a given. That's obvious,
She likes tzedakah, right?
No, man, she's got a big bank account. What tzedakah? What's tzedakah going to do for me? That's somebody else's. And now, the first quality that I was looking for, and I recommended, is that a girl should be careful that she's at least conscientiously trying to avoid Lashon Hara. Nobody's going to be perfect. She's conscientiously trying to avoid Lashon Hara, both for practical reasons and for a deeper reason. The practical reason is if you're married to a girl who isn't careful about Lashon Hara, then your whole life you're going to be racking up averas. Every word you say is an avera. You're going to come home from work, this guy did this, he did this, and she's going to tell you this neighbor was like this, and this was that, my sister-in-law was no good, and that. Your whole life is just practically, you're running up thousands of averas, number one. Number two, it's an indication of her personality. A person who's talking Lashon Hara shows that internally, this is a critical person. And you don't want to be married to somebody who's got a negative view of life is going to end up with a negative view of you. If she's got a negative view of other people, she's going to find the negative in you. You want somebody who's going to be looking for the positive, so she sees the positive in you. And even though your wife knows yet you're not so bad, she sees your flaws, or she won't make an issue out of it because she's too focused on the positive. I don't say it's the only quality, but it's a very important quality. Very important quality that she should at least be conscientiously interested in avoiding it. To this day, my wife and I we try to learn, we don't always manage it, we try to learn when we have a meal, so I try to learn a halacha of Lashon Hara, to what he calls. So that just as a reminder, and I've trained my family, I've tried at least to train my family, don't be curious about what's the difference, don't worry about it. Don't worry, don't ask about other people, talk about anything you want. Just don't talk about other people. What's the difference who got divorced? What's the difference who didn't get accepted to the school? What does it matter? What does it matter? How is it going to affect your life? If you wouldn't be so curious about it, okay, women tend to be more curious than men, which is true. Men are curious because that's also a certain koach HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave because they need to be curious about their own family. And women are much more curious. When you come home from school, did you eat lunch today? Was it good? What did they tell in school? Women are naturally, otherwise somebody's got to keep track of the kids. I could care less if my kid ate lunch. And mother, did you eat lunch? What did you have? Who did you? What I care if the kid ate lunch or not. I care if I ate lunch. I care if the kid ate lunch. I only had one question. Did you get in trouble? Great, go to sleep. That was that's a koach that they have, but it has to be controlled. A woman should use the curiosity to find out who in the neighborhood gave birth and needs help in the house. Who in the neighborhood is struggling financially and could use some extra finances. That's what that's the positive use. It's not a good or a bad. It's a tchuna. So for a person, you should get to the point where it's distasteful. I don't want to hear about that. Why do I want to hear about somebody else's flaws? What does it do for me? I don't want to hear about their flaws. It should be as distasteful as hearing something off-colored. That's filthy. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear a joke like that. That's a dirty joke. That's an off-color joke. That should be the attitude. I don't want to hear that. The best way to get out of it, by the way, because people get very defensive when you say something, listen, don't talk, that's Lashon Hara. People get very defensive. Nobody likes to be told they're doing something wrong. But I found the best way you could tell when a conversation is going in the wrong direction or when it's already reached the wrong direction. So what I found the best way to get out of it is by saying to somebody, blame yourself. I said, listen, I've been talking about people too much lately. Maybe we could change the subject. Okay, people will always be gracious and let you blame yourself. That they have no problem with. And that way you could tactfully, if you just say, hey, that's Lashon Hara, people get very defensive about it.
Now, what if you say like, oh, I'm sorry, I actually really don't want to listen to Lashon Hara?
It gets a little more, it's accusatory. You're right. Look, the Gemara says, why are our fingers shaped like pegs? Now, adult fingers, it's not as pronounced. So you look at a little baby's fingers, when you look at a little baby's fingers, they're the difference between the base and the finger, it's much more, it almost looks like a triangle. As they get older, this part, the base gets narrower. By an adult, even by us, it's a little wider at the base. But by children, it's pronounced, it's very pronounced. So the Gemara in Ksubah says, why are our fingers shaped like pegs? Gemara says, so that if you hear Lashon Hara, you can put your fingers in your ears. Gemara says, why do ears have lobes? What do we need earlobes for? And so if you hear Lashon Hara, you can fold it over. Double coverage on dangerous receivers. Right? In football, don't they do? They put double coverage on the receivers, right? Double coverage on dangerous receivers, right? So if somebody's talking Lashon Hara, you do like this, they'll get the hint. They'll get the hint. You shouldn't get to that point. You shouldn't get to that point. Obviously, you could if you want to, but you shouldn't get to that point. But to just say, listen, guys, I've been loose with my tongue. I've been talking about people too much. Maybe we could change the subject. So no, you're not. I haven't blamed you. I haven't blamed you. I blamed myself. That people will allow you. Maybe people will have no objection. Okay. All right. We'll hold it here. We'll continue tomorrow, Mirz Hashem. Just again, anybody on Torah anytime, this is called How to Run a Shabbos Table. This is $14. You could send to, if you're interested, this is it's got all sorts of ideas for Shabbos, realistic expectations, keeping teens interested, managing small children, and about 9 chapters of how to run a Shabbos table at home to keep everybody interested and to try to bring in Torah content and to make Shabbos meaningful. If anybody's interested, you can send. I'll send you the file. It's $14. You can send it to Dovid B. Kaplan, Kaplan at gmail.com, and I'll be glad to at gmail.com, PayPal at gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy. Okay.